disingenuous, fake, false, brokeback, twisted, a defiler, a betrayer, a backstabber, a devil. You don't think I don't see you, Stelter? I see you. You understand me? I know what you think of me and my family. I see you right back. You understand that? You understand that, Stelter?
I want to get into some of this Alex Jones stuff because he gets into a little bit of this stuff as well. I thought it was a pretty interesting interview. Alex Jones is always interesting. He has been right about a lot of stuff. He has been way freaking overboard on a lot of stuff, and absolutely there are things that he shouldn't have talked about, like Sandy Hook. But even in this video, and this is, I want to mention first before we get into this, this is his side of the story with his buddy, and they're talking about this. So this is one side of the story. So, and all we've ever heard from Alex Jones, the reason I think this is interesting, all we've ever heard about Alex Jones is the other side of the story, because this side of the story was never allowed to get out unless you went to InfoWars and dug for it yourself. So it's interesting that I like to hear both sides of the story. So again, like I said, some of the things Tucker Carlson says, some of the things that Alex Jones says are just wrong and dumb, in my opinion. But it is interesting to get that side of the story because you never hear it. Now, Alex Jones is sort of arrogant and narcissistic, so everything is basically about him and all that, but it's at the very least it's still a pretty interesting video. So what I want to do, let me see if I can pull this video up here. I want to play this part that I want to play illustrates exactly why Alex Jones drives me crazy. A lot of people love him, a lot of people will listen to him all the time. Lisa is one of those people. Sometimes, I mean, he really has a lot of really interesting things to say, but sometimes he just goes completely out there. And this clip right here, I'm going to play this where he's talking about Brian Stelter, is exactly why I say he's the WWF of conspiracy theories. So let me play this right here.
Specific example. So there's a guy called Brian Stelter who had the media show on CNN. I first met Brian Stelter when he was a high school student or a first-year college student because he would hang around the show I worked on at the time at CNN. This was 20 years ago at least. And I always thought he was awkward and weird and probably had a super creepy personal life, but I never took him seriously. There's a pretty famous clip, and I want to play it right now, of you critiquing Brian Stelter, and you take him way more seriously than I ever did, and I think you're right to. So this is pretty famous clip of you on Brian Stelter.
Hell on earth. He wants to run your life. He wants to control every aspect of your life because he knows he is a cowardly, degenerate sack of anti-human trash. I pledge before my Heavenly Father that I will resist them every way I can. These people are the literal demon spawn of the pit of hell. Look at him. And you know what? He is better than you if you keep letting him run your life. He runs your kids. He runs the schools. He runs the banks. This guy, this spirit, this smiling, leering devil that thinks you can't see what he is your enemy. Period. All the narcissistic, devil-worshipping filth. I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy. And I swear total resistance to you with everything I've got. Disingenuous, fake, false, brokeback, twisted, a defiler, a betrayer, a backstabber, a devil. You don't think I don't see you, Stelter? I see you. You understand me? I know what you think of me and my family. I see you right back. You understand that? You understand that, Stelter?
God. Now, real quick, that is exactly the Alex Jones that whenever he started doing that crap, some people love it, but to me it was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But I am going to play the Alex Jones, that was the Alex Jones then. And I'm gonna play the Alex Jones. He's talking about what he was talking about in that, which he makes a lot of sense, but about the censorship and how they went after him and all that. But when you listen, and I think the whole thing with Brian Stelter was attacking him, so that was his way to get back at Brian Stelter, you know, get ratings, all that stuff. But he actually explains it pretty rationally, which I appreciate more than the WWF style. Brandon said, I thought Jones was going to start healing their people there for a second. Yeah. But let me go ahead and play the second part of this, where he actually talks like a human being and tries to explain, even though it's still his side of the story. But he explains it in a way that actually makes a little bit more sense than the way he just did.
I've only watched that several hundred times. And I laugh every time, but I also, there's something to, if Brian Stelter had absolute power, would you and your family survive? Of course not. You wouldn't. You'd be, of course not, and neither would mine. So there's a lot that's true about what you said. How did you perceive that? The rest of us just made fun of him.
Now, once they started the censorship and deplatforming, remember back then they would deny it. Oh yeah, we're taking people off air, but it's not censorship. Now they admit, no, it's censorship. We're doing this for your own good. So he was really the face of that. And he was working for the head of CNN that was really in charge of it. It later came out. CNN currently is not in charge. They've handed it completely over to the Justice Department to quarterback, as Congress reported a few months ago with the documents. But at the time, Brian Stelter and his mini-me, Oliver Darcy,
His Popeye to Congress,
were going around calling up and harassing my sponsors, taking sponsors away. And they were going around and organizing big tech to take not just myself, but many other people offline. And so he was destroying our free speech. He was taking our sponsors.
But it's crazy. I just want to restate. You are not promoting race hatred. You're against race hatred. You never have promoted that, ever. You're not promoting violence. You've never called for violence. And you've never even called for breaking the law.
And so that's why there's so much anger there, because I remember the day I did that and a few other clips that went viral. I showed all the stuff he was doing, but then the media attacked me and just clicked it out of context, but still it reverberated with people because people were sick of the corporate legacy media. So people say, well, why is he so angry? Well, it's because he's literally trying to take us off air, literally taking our sponsors. I mean, the equivalent of the Vikings 1,000 years ago in England pulling up and burning a village down. And so there he is, all sweet and liberal and cackling and laughing, but he's really an agent of anti-American totalitarianism. And so he was the front man of that. And I wanted to just simply say,
well, you're right.
I see you. I know what you're doing.
In that clip, I wanted to end it there because he just goes on, starts talking about basically himself and the things that happened to him and all that. And, you know, but there's a bigger picture. And I think he's right about it, because that was about the time. Yeah, too many buttons, Brandon. Yeah. Or not enough brain cells, maybe. But that was about the time when all of this stuff really got started. And regardless of whether you like Alex Jones, whether you dislike Alex Jones, I don't think really matters. He did say some things about Sandy Hook that were just completely unacceptable and off the wall. But as he talks about in this, and I don't know one way or the other, but as he talks about in this, that was the reason, that was the issue that they took to be able to do all the things that they did to him. That wasn't the catalyst. That wasn't the start of all this stuff. But that was the one thing, just like when you go to court, just like when they took Al Capone to court, right? They couldn't get him on all the crap that he did. So what they did is got Al Capone on tax evasion. Sort of the same type of thing with Alex Jones. They did that to him. But there were a lot of other things that were going on before that. So it's just pretty interesting. But I think the main part of this is that's really when all of this stuff got started. The censorship, the deplatforming. He was the first one, and that sort of opened the floodgates to all this stuff, where they can basically just do it to anyone they want. And it's a little bit harder these days, but he also talked about how it's with all these radio personalities sort of doing the job that he used to do, that you've got like Tucker Carlson, you've got Joe Rogan, you've got Jimmy Dore, you've got just a bunch of people, Russell Brand, another one that's sort of getting lambasted. You get these people out there talking about this stuff, and he's sort of, you know, there's more voices now. But he said something, and I don't know if I have the clip in here or not, but he He mentioned how it's sort of like the Alamo, the fight against censorship and all this. It's sort of like the Alamo, where you had thousands and thousands of Mexican soldiers going up against hundreds of American fighters. I don't even know that they were soldiers. And it was basically a lost cause. Now, I'm not saying this is a lost cause, but it sure seems like it to me anyway right now. Now, could reinforcements be on the way? Could the tides change? Sure, it's not the last stand like it was at the Alamo, I don't think, at this point. But it sure seems like that way because, and I'll play a couple other clips that he's talking about with the World Economic Forum and the New World Order and all that stuff, where it sure seems that way because there's a concerted effort to lock all of this stuff down. If we don't agree with what you're saying, we're going to lock it down. And the problem with that is right now it's pointed in one direction. It's going after one, a certain group of people. What's to say in 10 years from now, they don't set a precedent and it's going the other way, and all of a sudden everything is locked down, because that's what governments want. It's harder than ever for them these days to do what they want to do in the shadows because of the internet, because of people being able to talk about things and question things. They want it back like it was in the 60s and 70s, where there were 4 news channels, a few newspapers, and it was easy to buy everyone off. There's too many people to buy off now, although they are doing a good job with the mainstream media.